Okay, Pak Mahesh, you can continue.
Okay, and I hope that will be a good discussion session. I think not like just like saying from my side. I think any idea, any thoughts you have, Vika, you can also
Sure.
feel free to completely intervene and talk about it.
Yeah.
So like I said, I think we did as a two-step process. First we kind of did a scanning of the desk research to understand what is happening globally, especially in the developed market. Also here already few things are happening. To kind of list down all the trends which are happening around three broad areas we took, because we did not want to like just expand too much, but three big aspects on which is happening on the food industry. And then we did a 500 sample size study among a very wide audience, 18 to 55 ABC across 5 cities, to understand which of them is acceptable and among whom, because later on we'll see in the deck, we are not also saying, that overall it is working, not working, but also some trends might be working for certain audience, right? And not for some other audience, specifically demographically, younger versus older, male versus female, higher SES versus lower SES, and how it's different. And if you try to take some of your trends to next step, maybe some of these are not applicable for the entire market, but for certain specific target group, some of the trends might be more applicable, right? So let's start. First, in the first session, I will take you through in our desk research what we found as the key innovation happening around food industry, and a little more detail about that before we go to how Indonesian consumers are accepting or rejecting it. First, what are the three broad trends we'll cover, and we'll cover 4 sub-trends within each of them. So first is health and wellness. So basically, consumers are more looking at food products, snacking products, which are not as unhealthy and kind of on a health to indulgence scale. It is not fully healthy in the sense it's not fruits and vegetables, but some kind of health alibi, what can make them feel that it's not so unhealthy and it is still okay for them. Second is experience and enjoyment, which is nowadays a lot of curation is happening on food, and it's not just food and snack is not just food and snack for sustenance, but it's also creates experience, and the more the brands are trying to create experience with the product, more they're successful. And the third, I think, which is the elephant in the room for every packaged food industry, which is environment and sustainability, and what is happening on that, and how much is Indonesians accepting it. So we are going to talk about these 3 broad levels. So let's start with the first one, health and wellness. So health and wellness, what are the key things which we have observed, which is happening? So first thing which we saw happening is what we call as free from foods. So it can be free from anything. It can be saying gluten free and lactose free and sugar free, and in a lot of Western countries it's also peanut free. I think fortunately Asians are not so peanut does not have peanut allergies, so I think it's fine. But the idea is it started in 2017, this whole world free from foods, and it's gaining in popularity across especially in the Western countries, especially among people who are health conscious, who want to avoid certain things, and also those who have allergy to some extent. So this is one thing which is happening. We'll see more details as we go along. Second is, I think it has been there for Indonesia for a long time, but it's still happening, and it's still more so in the food category. I think what we have seen in the past is fortification has been the forte in the beverage category. So like every beverage you take, there'll be some vitamin C there'll be some this vitamin, that vitamin. But in food category and snacking category, I think it's still something which has not been touched by too many people. You still don't have like potato chips with vitamin C, right? So technically, have you seen anything like that, Vika? so basically, I think in food category, it is happening now. It has not been a big trend. I think post-COVID, I think this whole vitamin things have become even more important, and that's where fortification is becoming important in food, and just to take care of all kind of deficiencies in the body, or even increase immunity for from whatever we are eating. Third, I think again the big elephant in the room, sugar. I think sugar is like anytime anybody talks about health or fitness and wellness, I think the one thing they say is sugar. Don't eat sugar. And however, I think human beings are addicted to sugar, and they cannot live without sweet things. And therefore, people are looking at sweet substitutes in various ways. It can be artificial, it can be natural, it can be even other things. So I think we need to understand what are the sweet substitutes and how consumers are accepting or rejecting different levels of sweet substitutes in Indonesia. And are they even looking at sweet substitutes in Indonesia compared to other markets? Not sweet, I would say sugar substitutes. And then gut. I think this is again one big trend happening globally, which is ultimately there are a lot of books written, lot of discussions happening around that. Ultimately, gut is your second brain. That's why sometimes you say there's a feeling in my gut. So how does your gut have a feeling? Because technically it's your second brain, and it kind of demonstrates, or it kind of controls everything which happens in your body. If your gut is well, then your body is going to be well. If it's not, then it's not. So maintaining a very good gastrointestinal tract, microbiome, that's another word which is used, and creating that whole good bacteria versus bad bacteria thing. And that I think is becoming very, very important. And anybody who can take, tap this trend in the food industry, I think can definitely get into some sweet spots. So that's the 4 key health and wellness thing we tapped it. I'm not saying these are the only ones, but we found that these are the the top ones which has been discussed around the world. So later on we'll see details into each of them and say what exactly Indonesian consumers think about these. Then second one is experience and enjoyment. Ultimately when we consume a food or a snack, we are ultimately trying to get enjoyment out of it. So while health and wellness is there more like an alibi, that if I enjoy, it should not be like too much of indulgence that impacts my body. So they are looking at various kind of things to make it less guilty. But ultimately the main objective is enjoyment. So what are the things which is happening globally on enjoyment? So one thing which is happening is combo taste and texture. So there's been a long time when we have been eating single single flavor things, right? But now more and more, I think as the culinary is getting developed, I think people are mixing a lot of things, chocolate with cheese and this with that and banana with that, So basically the idea is combine multiple things, because then multiple things have impact on multiple, taste buds in your tongue. And therefore it gives you a higher level of engagement. And these multiple things need not be only taste, but also textures. So combination of multiple textures, if you like eating Ferrero Rocher, you'll realize that technically Ferrero Rocher has got multiple texture in not only 2, I would say almost 3 levels of texture in one product. And that makes it so much more enjoyable. So they have very strong one in the end. There's a very soft one in the top, and then there's a melting one in the middle. So multiple level of textures is really a new trend, and manufacturers, especially in the snacks and confectionery and all, I need to kind of look at this in a very serious way. And yeah, I think this has been happening since last few years. It's not new. But we thought, let's check, it's still happening. I think it's not dying down. I thought after a few years it will die down, but it's not dying down. And people are still looking at extreme spiciness as a trend, because it gives you certain different level of experience. It elevates your experience to one higher level. It started with the Korean noodles, And then a lot of Indonesian brands are also kind of following suit and creating products and innovation. So we'll see, how consumers are actually reacting to it. Do they really want it, or it is just a fad, which we think will kind of die down with time? Then we have the third thing, which is new flavors. I think flavors in food has always been, the core, right? Obviously, there'll be obviously some core flavors, but people always seek a variety in flavors. Need not be to make it regular, but sometimes it's just to the variety seeking behavior, and a lot of trial driver as a trial driver. So I think it's important to use new flavors from time to time to drive differentiation. So there are going to be two type of flavors we will talk about. One is the local flavors. Like Indonesia as a country is very rich in cuisine and flavors. So there are a lot of local flavors, and people know about them, and people strive for that, and they want it in various products. Like some of the products we know, like noodles and all, like instant noodles, they actually cater to a lot of local flavors. But is it done by other products also? Then international flavors, that's another thing. And there are some interesting findings how demographic skews are there for international versus local flavors. And then the last one is eating experience. So eating experience by mean again, like if you're eating a biscuit, you can just eat it just like that, or there can be some kind of ritual around it, or if you're eating a chips, you can just eat it like that, or you can dip it in something and eat it, or you can mix it with something, or eat it. If you are eating a biscuit, you can decorate it with cheese and then make something and then eat it. So I think as a next level of innovation, I think one of the things happening is how can we, as a manufacturer, sometimes people create their own experience at home, using the food products. But as a manufacturer, can you create products which is more amenable to experience, or even you can communicate experience and how your products can be used for different levels of experience in the products. So that's another level of innovation which is possibly happening, and whether we can do it in Indonesia as well, I think it's a question.
Okay, Pak Mahes, it's very interesting when you say that on the previous slide, you say about the people care about their gut, right? They care actually about their health. But then here you also state about, this one, like they more, I think that it's more conscious about health, right? Now, you also in the next slide talking about spiciness is something that actually people are looking for, right? Is it kind of a opposite that these two things, is it for the different segmentation or how?
Yeah, actually, you can look at it from that perspective that, how can you eat spicy and still have a good gut, right? But I think the point is all of these things, there's some things which are for experience and in point of time, right? And it's not that if I'm going to have extreme spiciness, I will have in all my foods and all my, drinks and all my meals, right? It is like, okay, once in a week or something, I have this moment where I want to have extreme spiciness, right? So, and that point of time, they're okay, if they have a problem next day and they have to go, so that's what you do, right? Vika, on Friday evenings, you eat everything, right?
Exactly.
You don't care what will happen on, you do 6 days dieting and then you waste everything on one day, right? On Friday.
Exactly.
So that is one thing. But apart from that, I think it's a balance of enjoyment and health. That was I was saying, So they want both, they're looking at, from both sides. I want enjoyment by my food, but can something be done which can make me feel that it's not as bad,
Yeah, I think
so that's where the health comes in.
Okay, and I really love the explanation about how consumer regularly seeking for the new experience. I think that in Indonesia there are the most famous up until it's actually already long back time, the promotion from the Oreo. I think, hi Mas Arya, you are here. It's from Mondelez that it's another way of eating of snack of the cookies. But until today, I think that people still remember how they promote their cookies at the time. Is that kind of experience that you are talking about?
So that is more like on a communication perspective, like just from a communication perspective, the same product, but you're telling them you can do this, that ritual, right? So you can roll your cream and all that. Second is you can actually create products, which is like example, Estate 2000, right? I think I don't understand. I don't know why nobody has copied them till now, which is they give a sauce, right? Inside their chips.
Yeah.
So there's the Estate French fries, right? They give sauce in their chips packet, but nobody else gives. I don't know why. So that's really creating experience, because then you can take it out anytime during, outside also, and you don't have to bother on, trying to find sauce from somewhere and have that, right? Maybe other products are not used, but, things like nachos, for example, right? So nachos is becoming popular in Indonesia. But why don't somebody, a nacho company, gives a pack of nacho with a cheese dip inside that?
Yeah.
Right. That is creating experience, which is not just selling nachos, but it's like how to eat nachos, experience kind of thing. So that kind of experience we're talking about. Innovation perspective. Yeah. Okay. So I think going to the next one, I think we're going to go through each of them in a lot of details. So I think let's quickly go through the base. So if you look at the environment and sustainability, I think this is another big thing which is happening. A lot of things, a lot of people are talking about in the beverage space, right? That this is happening. But even food space, I think it's the same thing, because ultimately most of the food packets are in plastics, right? So using recyclable plastics or recycled plastics is very, very becoming something which many companies globally are driving. And the whole idea is that, same plastics can be recycled and again, and therefore the overall plastic waste is less. Then using biodegradable packs. So packs which are made up of plant materials or made up of papers and cardboards and things like that, so that it does not go into landfills, and it can be used again. It immediately decomposes in a very fast way. Then another interesting thing which is coming up globally is what they call bioplastics. So while if you see biodegradable packs, they are actually different materials, but bioplastics it looks and feels just like plastics, but it is made of materials which are biological in nature, and therefore it's easily decomposable. And therefore, from a consumer experience perspective, there's not much difference. But from an ecological perspective, there's a big difference. And we'll give you some examples of what's happening globally. And then refilling stations. That's a big trend, in my opinion. And it's going back, the circle is coming back, So I think, I don't know whether you have ever used, but 20, 30 years back, and when I was a child, a lot of things in my house used to come loose, right? What we call chura, right? In Indonesia. So chura. Oil used to be loose, grains used to be loose, spices used to be loose. So, and that point of time, you used to take your own container, bring it loose, and use it. But now everything is packed. Now it's coming back again to the loose, and saying, okay, container is too much of waste. Can we make it like a refill station? And there are a lot of, there are some outlets in UK and US who are actually creating the full outlet, which is our one section of the outlet, which is refill. And they are working with big clients like, Unilever and Kellogg's and everybody to create loose refill station where people can take their own, container and buy the product loose and bring it. So it just completely removes the whole packaging element completely out of the scene, while branding still remains from that perspective. So that is something which we'll see whether people are ready to accept that or not. But I think this is going to be a game changer in that sense. For many products, some products might not be possible.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think these are the 12 broad things which we are going to look at. Yeah, you don't have a question? You're saying something?
Okay. Talking about the refill station, is it possible to do it in the consumer good area, Mas? Because we know that in Indonesia, I think that Unilever already started, and then Body Shop also already started to do that kind of a refilling station. But is it something that we can start in the consumer good?
I think many products it's possible. So one example I'm going to talk about later is even like dry coffee, right? Instead of buying a instant coffee, there can be machines which are put, where you can just go and take 200-gram coffee, 100-gram coffee or something, right? There can obviously for things like many other products like oil, detergents, it's already happening. Like detergents globally, PNG, etc., is already having refill station things. For obviously all kind of grains, all kind of like Kellogg's products, right? Some of them are very easily doable. Some difficult ones can be around products like which are small in nature, like I don't know, soaps and things like that. But liquid soap is possible, definitely. So I think it is definitely possible. It just needs some innovation on the machinery and things like that, which will happen, I guess, over time.
Okay. Thank you, Mas. It's also answering a question from Bu Melissa. Hello, Bu Melissa.
Yeah, I think, I think like we were discussing earlier, even like tomato sauce and things like that, right? It can definitely happen. I think before we go to the next step, I would like to, ask you one question. I think we'll put a poll to understand, according to you, which of these three broad steps is most, relevant for Indonesians, according to you, and which you think is going to be happening more and more,
Ya, oke. Udah mulai ngisi ya. Jadi kita minta untuk isi poll ini lebih ke apa sih opinion dari Bapak dan Ibu semua about apa yang akan menjadi global trend yang ada di Indonesia gitu ya. Kalau kita compare dengan apa yang ada di luar, kira-kira apa yang masih bisa dibawa dan mana yang paling relevan dengan orang yang dicari oleh consumer di Indonesia. Okay, I think it's already almost 70% participate on this. In your opinion, Mahes, which one that actually more related with the consumer in Indonesia among these three options?
Have you ended the poll? I think
Not yet.
I will not tell answer right now. I think because that is the whole study about, I think going forward in the slides, we are going to tell you going by each of them, how much the consumers are accepting or willing to accept innovation on each of these spaces. But I would say that what the
so
market
this is the result,
it's almost very very close to what consumers are saying also.
Okay, so this is what the participants say. They think that about the experience and enjoyment. For me, myself, I also believe that this one is actually the most influencing for us to choose a product.
Okay, let's see the data now.
Let's see the data. Okay.
You can share the results, I think, right?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, have I shared? Yeah, already shared it?
Yeah, shared. Okay. Okay, I think we'll close this one. Okay. Any questions before we move to the next step?
Okay, there is a question from Pak Jonathan. The respondent age is at very wide range. Do you find different trend or preference between generation? And then how different Gen Z?
In fact, there's a lot of difference, and as we go along, I will show the data by different age groups.
Okay, so let's continue to the next session.
Yeah, okay. So basically now we understand, okay, what are the opportunities are more relevant for Indonesia. How did we do that? So basically we use this 12 trends and we almost did it like a concept test and try to understand which of the ideas have greater appeal. And we use multiple questions, to get the perspective. I'll not bore you with all those details, but the idea is that we created a score called Consumer Appeal Score, and to see how much consumer appeal is there for each of these innovation ideas. And ultimately, anything above 30, we are saying it's high. 20 to 30 is moderate, and less than 20 is low. And we're going to share you the exact data. So some of them are even less than 10. So that means it's really low. And some of them are also above 50. So that means they are very high appeal. So I think without delay, let's start. So let's go one by one. So I think we'll start with health and wellness and see in the same order. So which dimensions have greater opportunities? So if you look at health and wellness trends, these are the 4 things we looked at, right? Free from, fortifications, sugar substitutes, better for gut. Let's start with free from. So when we say free from, we did not take into account many things which are not applicable for Indonesia directly. So like MSG free we added, which I think is not not there globally, but for Indonesian, I think it's an important thing. So MSG free, baked or oil free, sugar free, and gluten free, right? And if you see those numbers here, 2 of them are orange, which is still in the moderate zone, which is MSG free and baked and oil free. And sugar free is in the red zone. So basically, frankly, most of the Indonesians don't want sugar free things. So I think that explains to me why most sugar free products fail in Indonesia. Gluten free obviously is not even relevant for Indonesian gut. I think most people are happy eating rice. So if you see MSG free, now if you look at by age group, I think the interesting thing was MSG free was highly skewed, and it was green among 25 to 45-year-old females. And even so, that tells me that possibly it is linked to the kids. So because these females who are at that age have kids, and also so they are the ones who are more ready to have non-MSG products. So we did not go to kids per se. So my hypothesis based on this is they are they are willing to have products innovation non-MSG for kids. And possibly for themselves also, but more for kids in my opinion. Second is baked or oil free is high among 25 to 35-year-old females, which is I think the time when they are most conscious about their looks, and they are starting to get putting some weight. Yeah, starting to put some weight right after 25.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and they still want to look young. I think in their teens, like Vika is the teens, I guess.
That's what I wish.
Yeah. So that is the time, when people are looking at that. So the idea is, while at the overall level, it might have less appeal, but there are certain groups, where we can still target them, but they need to be targeted very specifically. Like sugar-free is green in 45 plus, so 45 to 55-year-old. So that means once you have that age and where there's a lot of obesity or more like diabetes issues, and they want to still maintain their sugar and all that, that's where it starts. So if you create something which is sugar free, then you have to target older consumers, and possibly you have to target products which are more consumed by older consumers. To, if you like example, in milk, if you talk about lean kind of milk, right? I think there, if you have low sugar, then it might have more relevance. But if you go low sugar in products which are consumed by teens, then nobody will take it, right? And later on, we'll come to sugar substitutes also. So I think the right audience, for the right thing. But overall, I think low overall consumer appeal for free from food is low in Indonesia. However, some of the innovation experiences or inspiration which we are putting here is that if you create something, for specific target group, for a specific thing, then you need to communicate it very strongly. So you cannot just have non-FMCG and put it non-MSG and put it in the back of the cover. It has to be on the top of the cover. It has to be like a variant, with non-FMCG, non-MSG or non-preservative or non-anything, so that people need to be aware of that. And the importance of that is because if you don't communicate and they consume it, and they'll find it very bland, and therefore they will not compromise on taste, and then they will kind of reject it. But if somebody is buying with a consciousness that it is non-MSG, something, so then they are willing for certain level of compromise on taste because they know they are doing like that. And therefore, there's a greater chance of it being picked up by the right people and therefore liked and repeated by the right people. Otherwise, what will happen, a lot of non-people who don't want it will pick it up, and then they will have a lot of complaints, and then you have to take it out of the market. Second is on the baked. So baked, I think, again, it can be a method of this thing, but it has to be more like a variant. Again, because if it has to be picked up, it need to be targeted to a specific audience who will pick it up because they want certain benefit. And also only baked might not make sense unless you also maybe add some things like, what is the benefit, like hair lays, saying 65% less fat, somewhere in US. So those kind of things goes together, oil-free, fat-free, baked, etc. Again, it has to be rightly targeted so that, right people pick it up and right audience picks it up. In the right product category, you need to make it so that, and it will always be niche because overall there's not great appeal of these kind of products in the market. You're saying something, Vika?
Yeah, is it what you mean is actually when they create a product like this, the communication is actually the key, right? Because you need to clearly communicate that this is a MSG free, this is a baked, so there is no, because normally food like this, the taste is maybe less than what the normal one, right?
Yeah, so you have to set the expectations of the consumer, right? It's non-FMCG, so MSG, so it might not be exactly the same, right, in terms of taste.
Yeah, this actually same question from Mas Muhammad Fadila. Hello, Mas Muhammad Fadila. Does the taste or flavor still place above the healthy claim, or do people still want the good taste or flavor on top of healthy claim, or do they sacrifice taste or flavor in favor of healthy claims?
So everybody is not going to do that. That's why the whole overall appeal of this is very low, right? Because overall appeal of taste is still very important for most people. So when you look at healthy claim, it has to be targeted to certain people who are looking for those healthy aspects and are willing to compromise. So if you're talking about females 25 to 35-year-old and you're trying to target them with a baked and oil-free and fat-free thing or low-calorie thing, then you have to target them specifically and make sure that they are the people who are actually trying it out. But bulk of the people, like if overall 23 and among 25 to 35 is 32, then basically other age groups like 18 to 25 or even the older ones, they are not really so much bothered. So their scores are even lower, less than 20, possibly in reds. So technically, overall, it is a very niche market, and free from food is not something which is acceptable or wanted by Indonesians overall. Yeah.
So actually, people still care about the taste.
Yeah.
That's still number one, right?
Taste is number one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go to the next one. Next one, fortification. Now, this is something I think is very important, but I would say, first of all, that I think it's not that fortification by itself is going to work out, but more like fortification is like an add-on to my normal product, right? So it still as tasty, as nice, but if you add some fortification on top of it, it reduces my guilt. It makes me feel good about it. And therefore, when you're looking at two brands, one with fortification, one without, then there's a greater chance that I will choose the one with fortification, because it tells me that, yeah, at least this one is giving me some health benefit as well while I'm consuming, the product which has got taste and therefore indulgence and all that kind of things. So this is, to me, is the second most biggest thing we found in this whole thing. High acceptance among all target groups, specifically 35 to 45-year-old, SES, AB, higher SES, and on females. And to me, again, it could be related to higher in females. Usually, I link it to related to kids. So they are looking for more vitamins for kids products, snacking and food and all that. So again, 35 to 45 females, I feel that a strong relationship with how they are accepting or looking for a product for kids. And in terms of how is it operational, I think the key is how to make it operational. So there are two ways, So one way is to in a food product, I think you cannot go very specific on the vitamins, unless the second point is also still there. I'm going to come to that. But for most of the food product, you need to go with a bouquet of vitamin and mineral. You cannot just say, you know, this has got higher in SES, like vitamin C or vitamin A, because that really does not have too much of a meaning. I'm not going to consume one product just because it has vitamin A. But if I'm consuming some food and maybe on a regular basis I consume that, then if it has got a bouquet of vitamins and minerals, irrespective of what is it, then it kind of gives me a feeling that is going to fulfill my daily vitamin needs on various aspects, and therefore, you know, it gives me a better feeling. So I think one way is to just go with a bouquet. So like one great example I keep on saying is Sasa, which put vitamins and minerals in its flour, right? So if people can put in flour, I think a lot of things you can put in. You know, you can put in your chips, you can put in your biscuits, you can put in various things. You know, I don't see that as much happening. And in food products, especially vitamins, especially from a perspective of kids, you know, and post COVID, I think consciousness on vitamins and minerals is more, and people are might have stopped, you know, having supplement for vitamins, but they're still conscious and looking for vitamins and minerals. So I think while there might be a lot of products in vitamin mineral, mostly in beverages, and food products are really not capitalizing too much on that. Second is, if you, another way to do it is very specific, you know, then if you have to have specific benefit, then you have to have specific vitamins. Like example, this Britannia, which is an Indian biscuit company, has got this you know, orange cream or something, which saying, you know, growth. They're talking about growth, and therefore they're talking about growth nutrients, and therefore specific nutrients which are more linked to growth, and still it is a bouquet. It's still not it's one. It's like 2 or 3, but specific to growth. So either you can look at specific to growth and specific benefits and then go after that, or you have a bouquet of things and put it in your food and beverages. Food, I think beverage is already there mostly. So, and then we can target that. So that's the second part. I think a lot of high acceptance on that. And people are looking forward to that. No? Okay.
That's very interesting. But Mahas, this is a question from Pak Iwan. How about Pak Iwan? Fortification is actually good, but in Indonesia it could be cause concern. You know, it's like added some more addition, right? And then, what do you think the most effective fortification in Indonesia needs, and on what platform product? Is it what kind of a product? I think
so I think when I'm talking about hair fortification, I'm not saying that you create a product for fortification. Like I said, whatever product you have, obviously, if you're not adding any fortification, is there any possibility to look at fortification addition? Obviously, there will be a cost addition for that, but that's why we're talking about a bouquet of a thing, and you can mix it up things, and need not be like, you know, so high that, you know, it's like 1 day of nutrition or something like that, like they said. But obviously, that is something which is going to differentiate you from the brands, or you can actually do a varianting also, right? So you can create another variant or sub variant which has got higher vitamins and minerals, and charge more for that, and just see whether people are willing to accept that or not, you know, or they just want to go for the basic one. So it's a also opportunity to premiumize a bit on your food and beverage, and I think it is, to me, it is applicable for everything. I think let me see which is the question. Yeah, cost concern, right? Obviously, but yeah. So for that, making that cost concern, you need to see if you can premiumize it. And if you're a small brand and you're not making a breakthrough, then I think this might be able to make a breakthrough, you know, in terms of getting trials and therefore repeats later on.
Okay, let's continue first.
Yeah, you have any other question? No, right? Okay.
Let's do it during the poll session.
Okay. So I think the next one is looking at sugar substitutes. Now, sugar substitutes is something which, very interestingly, obviously people completely reject the artificial sweetener and also stevia. So while a lot of people wanted to add stevia and also adding stevia, but sometimes consumers, for example, to them, they don't really understand. It's like plant-based and things in that, unless law of education is done, but they still feel it is some kind of non-natural, though it comes from plant, but still it is not accepted as much. Most accepted is low amount of regular sugar, which is okay. You reduce the sugar, you don't have to remove it, you reduce it. I'm still okay with that, but that's again mostly applicable for 45 plus. So 45 plus are the ones who are okay with no sugar also, and also less sugar, I think. And when we say less sugar, I think the idea is to don't say just less sugar. If you just say less sugar, low sugar, it does not mean anything, because it can be 10% less, it can be 90% less. Some people who think that's 10% less will feel that it has no implication, and those who feel it is 90% less will feel that's too less, and possibly it will be completely tasteless. So some ideas is like, can you just make it like 30% less, 50% less, so that it's very clear, okay, exactly what are you talking about, and therefore it is more meaningful for consumers. And the second one, which is again accepted and it's part of the trend, is Gularin. And a lot of beverages, a lot of like all the coffee and coffee kanangan actually started this whole trend. And then a lot of coffee companies, I think most of them are now coming with Gularin. And I see a lot of beverages also coming up with Gularin. But I think food products, specifically biscuits, I think has got opportunities. Instead of sugar, if you can use Gularin, especially in cookies and things like that. I saw some this thing, but like coffee susu Gularin, this one clock promo. I'm not so sure whether it's just the flavor or actually contains Gularin, but to me, I think there's acceptance. One interesting thing was I found that there's a skew both on the lower side and higher side. So while 18 to 24 is also looking at Gularin, but more from, I guess, the trending side, because a lot of trends are happening, on Gularin, and they find it trendy. And also older consumers, because they're always looking for substitutes. And I think being older, they're also like more aware and more, experienced on Gularin, and they expect and accept more of that. So I think again, older consumers definitely, anything looking at sugar substitutes, mostly older. And that's why mostly low sugar substitutes or low sugar does not work, because bulk of your population, which is still 45, don't want anything which is less sugar or sugar substitutes. They are okay with normal sugar. And therefore anything low sugar, no sugar is destined to fail. So you have to look at specific product categories for older consumers, and possibly Gularin, because it also helps you in creating an additional experience without actually impacting the taste so much. Like I think Kata Oma is one, where we found that Rasa Gularin, I think all these with the traditional snacks, I think makes it much more richer. I consumed this and I'm really very tasty. So it's not that, so you get a guilt, you reduce your guilt basically. You're saying, okay, now I'm not consuming sugar, refined sugar, and it's not so bad for health, and it's also still tasty. And that's where they come from. And then the fourth one, so again, it is not green, right? Most, except for older consumer, mostly it's orange or red. And then finally, the biggest one is this high fiber, good for digestion. I think this actually was the highest accepted product. And the examples are something, which is just, so don't take these examples as the best in practice, but the idea is they're looking for something which is high fiber, good for digestion. And it can be additional benefit as well, in some of the products, So I think one of the recent successes in Indonesian biscuit category has been Sari Gandum, right? I think the biggest success recently, last 4-5 years, is that. So because there was no digestive biscuit in Indonesia completely, and then they came up with it, and the whole idea of fiber coming from gandum and all that, and then kind of sink in, along with a good taste, and therefore it kind of worked. So the idea is like this here, so for like the Sunfeast biscuit, So they're communicating high fiber, right, in the digestive biscuit. So we can also create something which can communicate that, or even create products which are more for gut. And even like this whole snack bars, snack bar concept is more for hunger filler and this and that, but it can also be adopted for the entire digestive support. It's like consume one per day, it will give you enough fibers, to make your digestion. So it can be like, instead of just hunger filler, it kind of treated in another way to create another market from that perspective. So, and it's happening around the world. And if you see the examples here, we're talking about fiber protein bars, and digestive support, high in fiber. So the whole idea is that this whole better for gut, again, is something which people are looking for, either as an additional benefit in your product or as a new product completely altogether. And therefore, definitely is worth considering. I think these are the four, this thing. Any questions we can take on this before we move to the next one?
Okay, I think that let's do it during the poll session.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, we have a lot of.
Okay. And I think also running out of time. Okay. Then you have experience and enjoyment. This, I think, most of the people on the call said that is the one which is most important. So let's see. Yeah, so combo taste and texture. So it is very heavy. So if you see here, very high, 38% score, 31%. So green. So variety of products which are crunchy outside with soft cream or soft filling, has a variety of taste in every bite. So these were the two kind of concepts we had taken. And it is very high, and not only for 18 to 24, but 18 to 34, till 34 age, I think it's still acceptable, mostly higher SES. So basically, above 34, I think they start becoming slightly averse to indulgence, and they start moving towards more healthy products. But till 34, I think there's a lot of longing for this product. In fact, the scores are around 50 or more there for the youngsters, 18 to 24. And the whole idea is to have multiple texture, like like a biscuit like Nexta, which is, again, it was a recent launch, I think, and it has done well because it has got outside different, inside feeling different. And if you see some of the examples here, one of the global big hits is Pop Tarts. It's in US. Nobody has created the same product for Indonesia, which I think is definitely something which we should be. It creates a whole level of different experience. You put this in an oven, you kind of freeze it and eat it, and it creates another. I think any of the big confectionery or biscuit guys should be able to do it. This Cadbury thing, with cream, milk cream inside, Kellogg's, because a lot of these Cocoa Crunch is used for snacking. So these kind of products, I think, obviously they can be put in these, but they also can be used for snacking per se. Even for confectionery, right? In recent times, like 3 or 4 years back, in India, this whole Pulse candy has been a huge success, in the sense it became the fastest growing brand in India. It grew from nothing to like huge number in like within 6 months or something, and still big, because the whole idea was it tapped into one traditional taste, and outside was like a different taste, and inside they put some other spices kind of thing. So when you bit into it, and it was like completely, like exploded in your mouth, the taste, and it really became such a craze. So the whole idea of having multiple texture, multiple taste, is really because it impacts multiple sensory nerves in your mouth, in your tongue, and therefore, in snacking, candies, biscuits, chocolates, I think there's definitely a lot of doable things around this. Even I don't know. I think recently I saw Indomie and Indo Scream, right? So they have created something which I was about to say, but I think I completely forgot. So Indomie and is Indo ice cream is made with an Indomie, right, inside or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how many of you have seen or consumed. I wanted to consume it, but I did not get time. But I think those are the experience, and there it comes with Indomie kind of brand name. But But the whole idea is noodles in ice cream. You know, who can think of that? But still, that's happening. So I think different combination, if you do, it creates craze, it creates attention, it creates trends, it creates brand saliency, and it creates a point that the brand is very high on innovation. Okay, now coming to the next one, extreme spiciness. And this was a big surprise to me. You know, when I was going to do the field, I thought it will be very high, but then realized that actually it is not, you know, which means to me, it is more like a very, very niche kind of segment. If you see mostly very youngsters, 18 to 24 males. And to me, that also is more like a very occasional kind of thing, which is I want to have experience once a month, sometimes when I'm chilling around with friends, but rest of the time I will have my normal stuff, right? So I think we have seen some launches on this Indonesia, like Monchabe, macaroni, and pop me, pitas davar, and Samyang was the one who started, and few more things. But again, my point is that if you, this is good for creating, some kind of salience, some kind of excitement and competition and this and that, but it will never be your mainstay, of your product. So if you already have your main product, you can create a variant with high or extreme spiciness, and just to create some excitement, but it will always be like a very, very small part of your portfolio. And we never know how long it will be there. From these numbers, looks like it is not really a big trend. I think more like a passing thing, and only relevant for only few people and for few occasions, that kind of thing. What do you think about it, Vika? Your opinion on this?
Yeah, I agree with you actually. I mean, like, I'm not that fans of a very spicy. So I think like my daughter, they all of them like love samyang. I think it's because of the trend from the Korea, I guess.
Yeah.
Just because of, but after that, yeah, it's only like once in a month, maybe, or once in a week. But it's not that regularly they will eat spicy kind of noodles.
Yeah. Also, I found that in a lot of people, like in my home, I've seen this also. Just later on when I was thinking that, my kids also, they bring one samyang and share, because I think they cannot
eat all, right?
One samyang, one person cannot have it, right? So like you have to like share between two people, and then you have another one normal noodles, which everybody will eat after that, that way. So this is almost like becomes like a condiment rather than the
exactly.
Yeah. So that I think was a surprise, but I think it just makes sense to me. And then you have new flavors. I think this is another green, which is, if you say unique flavors, new like flavors is definitely what people are looking for. New unique local flavors, I think, is actually people are looking more for local flavors than for international flavors. That's another interesting. Maybe it's because Indonesians really are very fond of their local flavors. So and lot of high numbers in the older age group. So I think the difference here is a clear difference. The older age group, 25 plus, and the more the older, the higher the number, and more lower SES, they are looking for local flavors, maybe from other parts of Indonesia. I just put some examples here, we see that, Piato is, doing some dendeng balado, and I think following, I think a lot of noodles, right? Noodles do all these kind of flavors. So I think a lot of snacking also now going into that. Yeah. Now there's another brand which had sambal, mata, like Bali flavors, right? And then you have international flavors, which is again, I think this is like an Indian example, not even Indonesian, because I think Indonesian brands are not going very strongly with the international flavors. I think even if they go, it's mostly for Korean and things like that, right? Korean flavors. But there's a acceptance among younger consumers, again, because they are more socially like social media driven, and I think higher SES, younger consumers. So there's a very clear demarcation, and therefore there's a possibility or scope for both local as well as international flavors. But again, from my understanding, flavors are more like for giving excitement and variety, and it should keep on rotating these flavors so that the excitement is built up. Don't try to make any of these flavors as your mainstay. because in any category, mainstay flavors will always be there. Like if you have, if you have a chips, your basic flavors will always be, the barbecue, beef barbecue, and and then I think rumput laut, those kind of things. So some of those basics will always be there, but I think these are something which creates excitement, trials, and therefore maybe some of these, if it's have a high level of acceptance, can become your regular flavor. But I think you should keep on experimenting with new flavors, both from Indonesian flavors perspective as well as international. But Indonesian flavors are more, I would say, theme of the day, because it has a larger and wider acceptance compared to international, which is more accepted among younger consumers. But again, it depends on where your category sits. If your category is more targeted, or your brand is more targeted to 18 to 24 youngsters and kids and teens, then it is different thing. And then eating experience, again, it is good and bad both. I'm saying it's like moderate, so it is not very high. So I think because we did not have many concepts, I think the concept comes with a dipping sauce in the sense, and we, though it is still very high among younger consumers, 18 to 24, SESA and males. So they are the people who are still willing to accept more of that. But at overall level, it is still moderate. So I think there's still some time to come, or maybe we need to try it out with different kind of experiences. Because possibly I was thinking why it could be happening is because of the inconvenience, and they are possibly not used to a very convenient way or convenient packaging where it can be actually very convenient way to create innovative experience. And maybe they're saying, instead of this, just give me this, right? Which is you already inserted in the same thing, so that I don't have to have mix it up, and you just mix it up yourself, so that I get both the taste together in the same thing. So maybe creating just creating a nachos product, which is like outer shell is nachos, but inside there's some kind of cheese filling inside. Like that is the innovation here, which can create a new eating experience. Right now, everything inside is like chocolate, right? Instead of that, if you have outer shell as nachos kind of shell, and inside is a cheese dip, sour cream, those kind of things, and it might have a different, that's another eating experience. But yeah, I'm saying this is still time to come. It's still not, unless you are targeting very young consumers.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the two aspects. Then we look at environment and sustainability. If you look at environmental sustainability, these are the four things we're looking at. So first, let's look at recyclable plastics. So if you look at recyclable plastics, packs made of 100% recyclable plastics. Again, I think people are still okay, moderate. I think they're not really over the ribs on this, like, okay, I will definitely buy that. It's not that. Again, I think most of the trends we see that it is more skewed towards younger consumers, because they are more accepting of these. Specifically, we will see all these environmental friendly things. It is more the younger consumers, higher SES, who are more open to that. And I think because of younger consumers are more conscious of these, because for them it's new thing. For older consumers, they have lived in a different way with all the plastics all their lives. So I don't think they have so much of a concern on that. And therefore, maybe I think the time is still not come, but I think will come, because as younger consumers accept more and more younger consumers will keep on coming to the market, and these consumers keep on becoming old, and older consumers keep on getting out of the cycle. I think it will become more and more relevant and important with time. Like some of the examples here was, if you see this Kit Kat pack, so they created one, Nestle created this Kit Kat with a recycled plastic. And so the idea is again here, like one of the earlier one we showed, right? The no MSG thing.
Yeah.
If you're creating something, you have to communicate it, because these younger consumers, who will see this and they'll say, oh, wow, this is like for me. because I'm going to support the environment if I buy this. And if it comes with bigger brand, then it becomes even more skewed towards them, right? Because anyways, KitKat is a good brand, good taste, and then they're also doing this, and it improves their overall perspective on the brand. And if you don't have something right now, you cannot do. Another thing is to have to start committing to some change. Like here, the Pepsi or Free-to-Lays, so they have been communicating that by 2030 they will have 100% renewable or recycled plastics. So again, even if you don't have, you need to start having a program to say that, okay, after a certain number of years, we will move. There has to be some initiative, because very frankly, you'll not know when it'll hit you. If you're a brand and you're not doing anything on this, and suddenly you will find one of your big competitor has taken the next step, and all these younger consumers will move to the in a hordes, and they will shift, and then you'll then I don't know whether you'll have enough time to have a quick move or not. So I think if any I think I'm sure most are already have a department who's looking at it, but I think you need to be very conscious about this happening going forward. Then second is, again, another option is made of paper or cardboard or other things which are biodegradable. Again, I think I've been getting these examples of Pepsi or Lay's, or because maybe they are very conscious on this, and they are doing a lot of things. Usually, some of these global players are the first movers, anyways. So innovating again, very same profile, 18 to 24 SESA for females, who are more accepting. So the idea is this example. Interesting thing, this in 10 years, 2010, 10 years back, Pepsi had launched the sun chips with some kind of, decomposable material, but it used to make so much of noise that they had to discontinue it. And that was a very funny thing I heard. So I thought I'll share with others. So they had to discontinue, though it was 100% decomposable, but problem is it made a lot of noise because of certain architecture of the material. So now they have again launched something which is 78% plant-based plastics. And I guess if it works, I think they'll be rolling it to the rest of the world over a period of time. And therefore, anybody who is a competition of it should be kind of careful. Though Lay's is not in Indonesia, I think soon they might come back after their period is over. Paperback-based packs, for wherever categories where it's possible, I mean, paperback packaging is not only biodegradable, but also makes it more premium look. One example was Heinz tomato ketchup. So they launched some paperback packs somewhere in Europe. And it again, these are still at experimentation stage. And as things become successful, I think things will be launched, I guess, in various places. But again, orange right now at a total level, consumers are still not gung-ho over it, and they are still kind of moderate. They are not rejecting it completely. So they are moderate and mostly driven by the younger consumers. Another thing is bioplastics. I think this is a new innovation. I think Coke is leading this innovation in one sense, and Heinz has also kind of joined hand with Coke on that. And you can go to your website like Google and check it. So they've launched something called plant bottles. And like example, Heinz launched this pack, which is guess what my bottle is made of, plant bottle. So that is kind of very biodegradable, and the experience is just like normal bottle, and that makes all the difference. And in fact, even in snacking, this Swedish snack manufacturer, they created something like this, the chips bag made from bio-based plastics. So again, I think a lot of things happening around the globe, and I think all the players should take and especially because it's still at a moderate level in Indonesia, so we have time, before we can, take it to the next step. Now, this one is obviously it's very new for Indonesian, so they're kind of not very clear. Like even Vika, you were saying, right? Is it even possible and things like
exactly.
that? So I think people were still not very clear. So most people are still in a red zone. But if you see, interestingly, older consumers 45 plus and SESC who are green on it. I think SESC is green also because maybe they're still buying few things loose from here and there. Older consumers have bought in the past, and SESC is also because they feel that it will make easier for them in terms of cheaper, and possibly amount will be as much as they need and things like that. So I think there's a cost angle also which can be played around. So if you see here is some of the examples in Scotland, there's a shop called Asda. So they have a full whole section on refill zone. Like you were asking, is it possible? So if you see a lot of things, coffee and Kellogg cereals and this and that and pasta, so need not have bags, and you can just go and buy it as per you need. Obviously, some of the solid things which does not need strong packaging can be done right now. But as it goes, it need not be. For example, if you make, like if you see the right one, right, in the Nescafe. So they have these different types of coffee, powder coffee. You can just take your container, and in Switzerland, they have launched this. So you can just take your container, put like you do in any normal vending machine, and say I want 100 grams, and put your key card number or whatever, and it gives you 100 grams. So not only it gives you a perspective like it's loose, but sometimes you also get a perspective that's more fresh. I don't know. If I was using that, I'll feel that it's very fresh, because directly coming from machine and things like that, maybe. Yeah. So I think it depends. I think I've not given examples of other categories like soap and shampoo, like detergents, right? I think P&G has done Tide, for example, in US. Yeah. Many stores, they have this whole refill station. They just take your container and fill it.
Yeah. So, in Indonesia, it's actually also there are some refill station for the kind of a soap and laundry detergent.
Yeah. Like example, I think people are okay with that. I think I heard from somebody that even sauce, tomato sauce, some brands who are there who will come take your bottles and give it back to you, the full ones. So that's another way to do it. Another way is this. So I think the idea is to completely get rid of the whole packaging thing itself. To me, that would be a real game changer. Again, I think it will not happen soon, and Indonesians are still not willing to accept it, except older STSC consumers. So possibly something we don't have to bother about for now. I think let time come, for this, when we have to bother about that. And possibly this will be led not by so much by manufacturers, but also by the retailers, when they will start asking the brands, and they'll collaborate with the brands to do that. But if brands can take an initiative and do it, I think it'll be a game changer, or like an initiative, or like a, what do you say, something which gives innovation image to the brands. So basically, before we go, so we have gone through most of it. I would like to now ask everybody, can you have a quick response on which of the things in each of these three measures which your company is innovating on or working on? So we have
interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting that I think that most of attendees actually coming from the industry as well. Yeah. Okay, while waiting for them to give a question, but let's have to answer, because I'm so apologize that I put all the Q&A on the last session because of the time is up actually. And then okay, let's answer this. This is a question from Mas Muhammad Fadilah. Is unhealthy find unhealthy category? I think that maybe unhealthy category like a salsa, healthy noodle, kind of that, they can work better or to the mainstreaming healthy category, let's say protein bar, fiber drink. Is it better or easier to do that communication, etc.? I think that's what he means. On the question number one, Pa.
Yeah, okay. Or can you mainstream healthy category better, easier? I think healthy fine unhealthy category, I don't think it will work. Because I think the problem is the moment you try to make it very healthy, people, it does not resemble the whole category, right? The whole perspective of health versus taste. So don't change the basic premise of the category, but you need to add something to the category which helps to make you feel that it is better than others. I think like that, So example, noodles. Like noodles, if you remove MSG from noodles and if you remove this thing, usually nobody will eat because people eat it for the taste. And if the taste is gone, then basically what's the point of having noodles? I can as well have something else, right? So I think the point is sometimes, manufacturers try to make it change so much that it no longer belongs to the category, right? Then becomes some other category. So I think focus better on categories which are more health in nature and healthy by itself, and kind of have and create occasions for them.
Okay, so you think that actually when people choose noodle, they already choose like something it's with the taste, with experience, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so if they choose something healthy, then they won't eat noodle. Is it like that, Pa?
Yeah. So only thing you can differentiate is you can say same noodle, but I'm adding zinc into it so that it helps you in something. I'm just saying zinc, but some other whatever vitamin, it helps you in better absorption of the nutrients from this. Or it eliminates the bad nutrition, bad nutrients, right? But you're still having.
Okay.
See, in food, I think one fundamental principle, you cannot remove or change the taste. The moment you change the taste, then it becomes then it is a very niche category, right? You have to go to only people who are willing to accept a different taste and compromise for a better health, and then becomes a very small population. Yeah.
Okay. I want to jump to another question from Bu Aletea Monica. For the health and wellness trend, do you have some kind of idea for the SESB2C product? The data given mostly for the SESA and B, that most of them already concerned about the healthy issue.
See, I think most of these trends, most of the thing is lower in SESC compared to SESB. So because anything which is trending usually tends to be more accepted by higher SES. Because lower SES consumers are more worried about the basically trying to buy the category itself. So I think they're more interested in cheaper price, promotions, and this and that, right? Rather than any new categories, new trends, new things. So usually, one of the thing I like you rightly said, most of the trends are more skewed towards SCSA, SCSA-AB, because they are the one who are more ready to accept new things. For SCSC and D, they are more struggling, with just trying to buy the normal things at a cheaper price, basically.
Exactly. There's also a question from Bu Ana actually relate to what you just mentioned just now. Considering that healthier product often comes in a more expensive pricing, do consumer, especially Indonesian consumer, really want to pay more for the healthier product?
Yeah, I think that's the whole idea. I think that's why it is skewed towards mostly higher SES. That there people are willing to pay, but not everybody, and therefore it's going to be higher. But yeah, things like a few things like vitamins, minerals, fortification, and healthy gut, it is accepted among everybody. Actually, it's like higher among all SES. So the question is, I think obviously we did not get into the pricing, right? And assuming that pricing is still within their reach, or the product which they are going to make is still within their reach. So that if I take into account the pricing, then obviously once the pricing comes in, I think a lot of lower SES will go out of the frame. So I think any trendy product, worldwide, globally, I think the first movers will always be higher SES. People who are who have the budget to try it out, who have also the consciousness of doing something different, and who are more aware about the global what things are happening around it, things like that. So I think that is given. I think any new product you launch, healthy product you launch, you have to focus on the bigger, higher SES. You cannot go to lower SES because again, the pricing will completely take them off.
Pricing become the issue, right? Okay, and then the last question before we end the poll. Thank you to all who give this kind of a question, but I think that I'll try to read after this. This coming from Pak Yandanarko. Hello, Pak Yandanarko. Which of these trends that according to the study may be applicable to beverage study, beverage industry, sorry, both ready to drink or ready to serve, Pak?
Sorry, which of these trends are more applicable for beverage?
Beverage, yeah, beverage industry.
Yeah, I think sometimes in future we will do another webinar on beverage. But here I think the third one, which is the what you call, the sustainability one to me is again more on beverage because right now it is low on food. But I think if I would have done this for beverage, I think it would have been higher scores in my opinion, because when people think about plastic waste and things like that, they think mostly about beverage rather than food products. And in terms of other one, which is experience and health, I think currently beverages are already pretty healthy in my personal opinion. That lot of beverage already have all the vitamins, minerals. Lot of beverages which are there, which are only specific for certain vitamins. So I think if you talk about vitamin and minerals already there. If you talk about gut, again, there's like you have things like yogurt and you have things like that, which is good for gut. Right, sugar substitutes again. There's water which is we don't need sugar. Free from foods, I think is not relevant for them. But I would say that health and wellness, I think relatively, beverage is a more healthy category compared to food or snacking per se. So experience and enjoyment, I would say, is another one which is more applicable for apart from environmental, because you're talking again about things like the jelly drinks and things like that, which is still a need gap in beverage category, which is the combo taste texture. Instead of having a plain drink, having multiple flavors, jelly inside that, etc., etc. New flavors are still relevant for that. Experiences not so much because beverage is directly straightforward, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think there are some which you can pick and choose, from a beverage perspective. But I would say it's more on these two things, every experience and also recyclability. I think these are the two which is where I think more innovation can happen.
Okay, I would like to end the poll, and this is the result, Pak.
Okay. So I think if you look at the first one, we are talking about sugar substitutes. A lot of people are working, though actually Indonesians are not really looking for sugar substitutes. Fortification is right? Better gut. Free from food is low. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Next one. Next one is
the new flavor.
New flavors. Again, flavors is definitely important. Hopefully, people are working on both in local as well as international flavors. Again, combo taste texture to me is actually very important. Again, good that extreme spiciness is low, eating experience is high, right? So it is kind of aligned. But I would say the combo taste texture to me is even more important than new flavors, because new flavor is easier to do, right? Obviously, then you can just have one more flavor, right? But I think if somebody can do combo taste texture more, then they have a greater chance of succeeding, because it takes longer time to do, but I think there's a greater need for that. And then we have recyclability. I think most people are not doing anything. 40, almost 50%, and they're talking about recyclable plastic is the highest one. Yeah, I think this is more or less in the line. Okay. So I think that is the overall summary. So basically, if I summarize it, what we have done is like this, which might be useful for you, which is which are the green ones are the ones who, at overall level, we think those are the strong trends which I think Indonesians are completely ready to accept, and anything which you create on this will have an immediate uptake, which is from a health and wellness perspective, better for gut is the biggest, and then fortification. For experience enjoyment, combo taste texture, and new flavors. So these four are the biggest. Then from a health and wellness, and then from orange ones, so many of the environmental friendly ones, all the recyclable plastic, bioplastic, biobags, like technically all of them are same from a consumer perspective, right? That's why the scores are not very different. So all of them
it's same
are,
and it's actually same with what the poll that we just launched right now, right?
Yeah. So basically, all the environmental is something moderate. Nobody is rejecting it, but nobody is really gung-ho about it. So I think we have a little time on that. Yeah, and then we have eating experience again, like we discussed, because I think it's still not very clear, how to do it, and there's some bit of inconvenience in, for example, the concept we tested, with the dipping. But there must be other eating experiences which can be more promising. So technically, if that was green, then yeah, eating experience to me is the highest out of the three. And then obviously sugar substitutes are no. It's like I think a lot of people are working on that. But I would say that it is more from the perspective of compliance, right, and making healthy. So you have to do that from that perspective. But from a consumer perspective, they are not really seeking low sugar. Free from foods, again, they are not really seeking. Extreme spices, again, not very seeking. Refill stations, it's too early for them to even react to that. So I think a good combination of 444. I think which you can use for any prioritization of innovation. So the whole idea is a lot of global things are happening, but all of them are not relevant. So tread with caution so that you don't get ahead of time, and then for innovations will fail, and then you realize why it's failing. So focus on the ones which are more accepted by consumer for the time being. Yeah, I think that's it from our side. Any other questions you want to answer, or we just kind of close it with this poll?
Okay, I think that let's give one more the last question. Okay, this question from Bu Ana. During the panel, are you also giving some stimulus of the flavors, or the question is only about the international and traditional flavors in general?
No,
Also,
we gave some examples of the Indonesian and international flavors.
Okay, so we give that kind of a stimulus, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Last one. Would you prefer to use fortification? Talking about the fortification that you already explained before, coming from raw material, for example, flour, or fortification applied at the finished good product. What is your opinion about this one?
Actually, ultimately, what consumers seek is it's there in the product, right? How it is done R&D wise, frankly, I don't think it matters to consumers. Or even in our survey, we did not really specify anything on that. Yeah.
Okay, noted, Pak. Okay, so talking about the poll, so we would like to offer to you that do you want to understand about the methodology on how we determine need gaps for creating new innovation idea? We can explain it to you and your company for this. And also, if you need more information about whatever that just mentioned, just explain by Pak Mahes, just let us know. We will do the presentation to your company as well. Okay, I think this is the end of the session. You want to add something, Pak Mahes?
Yeah. So on this new innovation opportunity, I just wanted to tell that we have developed one definitely a different kind of method to understand the need gaps from an Indonesian perspective or any perspective, to understand what are the need gaps where when you create a product, it is going to be something which consumers need, and also they don't think they're getting enough. Because sometimes, there are products which consumers need, but there are enough products in the market to take care of that. So I think we have developed the methodology, and that's what, if you're interested, I think we can share with you. And I think we're already doing many projects using this method, and it's coming out very interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Okay, so very interested that all the people who are answering is answer 100% yes. Okay, we will try to talk about this in the future. And after this, we will send a survey to understand what is your opinion about the webinar, and maybe some more feedback about our webinar, what we can improve. It's very important for our improvement. And also, if you want to understand about other category, because today we are very specific to the food industry. So later on, if you have any idea on another industry that you want us to have the data and also to share the data, share the trend, just let us know during the survey itself. Okay, I think that's all from us, Pak Mahes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vika. Thank you very much.
Joining.
Thank you very much to all our audience who attended. I think it has been a pleasure, and taking you through this.
Yeah, it's very a pleasure. And thank you, everyone. I would like to end the poll and also end the webinar itself. Thank you. See you in the next webinar with a different topic.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.